Okay, here we are once again. Okay, what I'm trying to show you is I've just been listening to Astrix, Interactive Noise, Highlight Tribe, you know, this kind of stuff. But I cannot play it here because of all these claims that they're gonna make. I felt like I was stuck, like severely stuck in something, like in a rut. And I'm trying to break out of this, so I bought a nice bottle of wine. I'm skipping beer because of the fungus that's in there. And I'm working with these ideas. Anyway, so the idea is that I want to get into flow, and sometimes I just get so bored of being sober all the time. So I'm trying to find ways to get off or release myself into the experience of moving, which is a better way of saying this. And when I'm doing this, I try to I don't really care. I have just drunk more than half a bottle of wine. But that means that I may stop thinking enough to actually unwind a little. So there's no excuse anymore. Plus, I don't have to prove this to you because this is part of my private life. And the fact that I can do this, wow, while talking about it, wow. Okay. I like doing these things. Simply to test how far I can actually go. Because if you come from this kind of society, being sober all the time is really a drag. I'm just saying, it's just really a drag. So I'm always looking for ways to release myself. So I cannot just be this normal guy all the time. Sometimes I just like to drink wine and unwind. And this is about movement. And I'm going to get more into this during the course of this year. It's certainly getting better. This is super tough, by the way. You can do it slow. I cannot do this all the time, I'm just saying. I do this when I feel like it's alright. This is the me that has enough energy to do this. So you save on other things. And just because I'm working towards the finding truth in books, I picked up the book, you saw it, I just open a random page and I look what it's gonna tell me. If I do this every day, it's gonna lose its effect. But if I do this maybe once in a while, there may be something in it for me. Okay, it says throw. Wa managed to look down at his hand. What are the stakes? He whispered. If you win... Oh wow, this is mort, so this is death, of course. If you win, you will refrain from these ridiculous attempts to suggest that chance governs the affairs of men. Okay. You know, I have to go. You know what chance is? I don't know, you just throw hey, and then there's a leaf in it. It just makes no sense, right? Life is so strange. The stranger stood up. The boys closed in around him. This is... Okay, now I have to try to imitate Death's voice. This is uncalled for. I seek only to learn. What pleasure can humans find in a mere reiteration of the laws of chance? Okay, how did he get there? You see, this is the question people may have been asking themselves. How did you get there? Well, I simply continued, and I accepted that I don't really know what's going on, right? You know, that's the madness. That's the Alice in Wonderland. You don't really know what's going on. You just take it day by day. Okay, let's just see. It's a knack. 21 the hard way. We scooped up the dice and they're playing dice and handed them to the stranger. As he turned to Hummock, one eye flickered ever so slightly. Hummock was impressed. He's hardly noticed the blur in Wa's deceptively gnawed fingers, and he'd been watching for it. It was disconcerting the way the things rattled in the stranger's hand and then flew out of it in a slow arc that ended with 24 little spots pointing at the stars. 24. It's like 4 times 6, right? Some of the more streetwise in the crowd shuffled away from the stranger. You know, if you're too good, people start to pay attention. And then they get suspicious, and then they get jealous, and then they start hating you. But if you're too good on a frequent basis, they just hate you for it. And then you just have to accept it, because that's all they got, right? That's all they got. Some of the more streetwise in the crowd shuffled away from the stranger, because luck like that can be very unlucky in Cripple Wa's floating crap game. So you also have to know, right, sometimes it's better to lose and to leave early. Wa's hand closed over the dice with a noise like the click of a trigger. You know, it's like, if you win again, I'm gonna shoot you. All the 8s, he breathed. Such luck is uncanny, mister. That's a bit like what they portrayed in the Pirates of the Caribbean. I believe I threw these movies away, but I like the idea. The rest of the crowd evaporated like dew, leaving only those heavy-set, unsympathetic-looking men who, if Wa had ever paid tax, would have gone down on his return as essential plant and business equipment. Maybe it's not luck, he added. Maybe it's wizarding. You see, now he's pointing out the fact that whoever he's facing in his game of dice actually knows about the laws of creation and magic and can make the dice appear in whatever fashion he desires. And that, of course, goes back to the movie something with Henry Sugar in it? Well, it's not originally a movie. It's a book written by the guy who also wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Roald Dahl. I have not read the books, but I will do so in due time. This is something, this is like a list of things I have set myself. I want to read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I want to read this story about Henry Sugar. There are certain books that I still want to read, and this is one of my lists that I've been keeping, whether I drink wine or not. But this is just how I see truth, right? If you play with people who are kind of like crooks, they don't like being cheated because they're used to being the one who cheats. Maybe it's not lucky at it, maybe it's wizarding. I most strongly resent that, Death says. We had a wizard once who tried to get rich, said Wah. Can't seem to remember what happened to him, boys. We give him a good talking to and left him in Pork Passage and in Honey Lane and a couple other places I can't remember. The stranger stood up. The boys closed in around him. This is uncalled for. I seek only to learn. What pleasure can humans find in a mere reiteration of the laws of chance? What pleasure can humans find in a mere reiteration of the laws of chance? So it does seem like he has altered it, of course, because he's dead. Chance doesn't come into it. Let's have a look at him, boys. The events that followed were recalled by no living soul, except the one belonging to a feral cat. One of the city's thousands that was crossing the alley en route to a tryst. It stopped and watched with interest. The boys froze in mid-stab. Painful purple light flickered around them. The stranger pushed his hood back and picked up the dice, and then pushed them into Wah's unresisting hand. The man was opening and shutting his mouth, his eyes unsuccessfully trying not to see what was in front of them, grinning. Throw! Throw! Wah managed to look down at his hand. What are the stakes? He whispered. If you win, you will refrain from these ridiculous attempts to suggest that chance governs the affairs of man. Yes, yes, and if I lose? You will wish you had won. You do get this, right? It's like, yeah, you're done for. Wah tried to swallow, but his throat had gone dry. I know I've had lots of people murdered. That's the point where Voldemort was before he faced Harry Potter. He should have just made amends, but he chose to die. 23 to be precise. Yeah, truth always knows, and truth in a way is death. Is it too late to say I'm sorry? Such things do not concern me. Now throw the dice. Wah shut his eyes and dropped the dice onto the ground, too nervous even to try the special flick and twist throw. He kept his eyes shut. Just something in between. You may try to outwit whoever your opponent is, but your opponent is always truth. which is why there is no point, because you cannot ever outwit truth. Because whatever you do, truth is always there. It always lingers in the periphery of who you think you are or might be. So in the end, it's a choice that you gotta make. And I think that is what the point also that is death, like that death is trying to make. All the eights there, that wasn't too difficult, was it? Far fainted, death shrugged and walked away, pausing only to tickle the ears of an alley cat that happened to be passing. He hummed to himself. He didn't quite know what had come over him, but he was enjoying it. Okay, so that's just what I get out of reading books. I actually didn't know I would do this one now. It's actually interesting because I'm sometimes really reluctant to do anything at all. And then suddenly I'm doing it anyway. And I know the last one I did was Mind Ramble, and now this one seems to be working with books. Well, this is how I work with books, and this is partly the reason why I cannot just read a book just like that. I just want to know. Okay, it says YouTube 25. Truth in books. Well, I'm just gonna keep it that way. Just gonna say this is truth in books, man. And then I'm just gonna save it and render it later. Because I seriously feel like I'm running out of time to do all of this, so I just have to do it. Oh, Arya. Oh, nice. This is George R.R. Martin, Storm of Swords, A Storm of Swords. Her eyes had grown accustomed to blackness. When Harvin pulled the hood of her head, the ruddy glare inside the hollow hill made Arya blink like some stupid owl. Now, I find it really sad that he never finished those books. But whatever. That's what he's gonna be remembered for. The guy who sold himself to Hollywood. A huge fire pit had been dug in the center of the earthen floor, and its flames rose swirling and crackling toward the smoke-stained ceiling. The walls were equal parts stone and soil, with huge wide roots twisting through them like 1,000 slow, pale snakes. People were emerging. Okay, now I'm actually looking if I have the other ones or if I just have this. Well, it looks like I only have this. So where are the other ones? Yeah, I'm gonna do this another time. This is just an in-betweener. But I'm gonna get to the one, Truth in Books, right? The huntsman had turned out to be a stocky man in patched tan leathers, balding and weak-chinned and quarrelsome. At Stony Sept she had thought that Lem and Greenbeard might be torn to pieces when they faced him at the crow cages to claim his captive for the Lightning Lord. The problem that George R.R. Martin was facing was that he was too concerned about, I don't know what, man. But he was drawn out away from writing books by the people who wanted to kind of like worship him. I think he should have spent more time with his creation. and focused on finishing it, but he ran away from it because he probably thought he could never give credit to it, or he just saw it as a nice escape from himself. I think he would have done better to simply continue with his work, because now this will always remain unfinished. And even if they release it in the end, unless he does it, it will always remain unfinished. And this is such a good story with such, like, it's so much detail also. I believe he should have honored it by finishing it. I mean, come on, it was just 2 more or maybe 3 more books. And that's the options that I'm facing just in my mind sometimes, without having the followers to support this idea or claim. I can only say that I think about these things a lot. What I'm gonna do if I would start getting credit for the work I'm doing. I think I would focus on keeping it going. So I've got a podcast, I've got 2 podcasts that need to be maintained. There's just no way out of it. I like it, I love it. That's what kept me going. So there comes the appreciation. And then the other part is, of course, everything else. I like being creative, and I should work hard to maintain that. And I love where I live, and I should maintain that as well, however hard it may seem. So, right, whatever your reasons are, I picked this. And when you start as a creator, you have to realize that there may be people that start leaning on you. And because you know that this is true, you have to be honest about what you're doing, or otherwise you will just fail them. And that's just something I could never do. So I rather keep giving, creating, and then see where it's gonna get me. And so if you start being a creator, don't act like you're gonna do it if you don't do it, because as long as you're here, you should support whoever needs your help with your creations. And if you cannot give them that, then you shouldn't start at all. I'm just saying, this comes with a lot of responsibility, because you're like guiding souls. If you're dabbling in all this spirituality and stuff, you're like guiding souls to the ends of their life, possibly. So there has to be a lot of appreciation. And that's what I'm missing in a lot of people that create content online. The freedom to express themselves, and they just use it to produce junk. And I think that's all I have to say in this one. The rest will come. Well, every day, whatever, something else.